The Information Technology and General Services Committee will now come to order. We'll take the items at this time in the order that they appear on the agenda. We'll begin with item number 1.
Item number 1 is a motion, Perry Parks Cardenas, relative to requesting the Bureau of Engineering to report on the status of the environmental impact report for the Parker Center site, including a timeline and next steps for the site development and ceasing operations at the site.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm Deborah Weintraub, Chief Deputy City Engineer from the Bureau of Engineering.
And I'm Aura Kasparian, the Environmental Manager for this project.
We have given you, Council Member, a summary schedule of our next steps. We will be issuing a notice to proceed to our consultant team tomorrow to initiate the EIR. The EIR process is anticipated to take at most 1 year and 7 months. As part of that EIR process, we will explore a number of alternatives for the site, from no action on the site to demolition and replacement of another building. That will be all explored in the EIR.
Okay. When it comes to the activity on the site right now, what activity is going on physically on the site currently?
Physically on the site, the Parker Center is in the process of being emptied. There's no construction activity going on right now. The Scientific Investigation Division, which is housed in the building, at the moment has no new home, and they will remain in the building until a new home has been identified.
Okay. All right. Have they done any, it appears that at one portion where they used to have like a garage and some gasoline type facilities there, did they pull those facilities out already?
Yeah, when the new Motor Transport Division was opened, along with the Police Administration Building, we demolished the old Motor Transport Division and fueling area, and that's now a construction site for a parking structure that was part of the Police Administration Building project, yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that? Okay. What we're going to do at this moment is we're going to hold this item in committee. We anticipate that Councilmember Perry will be here in just a few minutes in case she has any questions. This is in her district, so
Okay, no problem.
we'll give her an opportunity to ask any questions if she has any before we take action.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We'll now go to item number 2.
Item number 2 is a discussion item with the Information Technology Agency and the CAO relative to an update on the 311 Steering Committee.
Hi, Committee Chair. This is Alex Yee from the CAO office, along with Kevin and Agnes from ITA. The item before you is a presentation on the 311 e-government communication systems as requested by the committee. ITA and the CAO both contributed to the report. I would like to use the PowerPoint document that has been handed to you to assist me in this presentation, and we are available to answer any questions. So from page 1, the 311 e-government project is to centralize the city's non-emergency customer service operations and also to relieve pressure on the 911 system. Originally, the project has 4 phases. Phase 1 is to establish a call center, eliminate redundant phone numbers, and develop a web-based citywide service directory. And phase 2 is trying to use a CRM solution to centralize all information request tracking. Phase 3 is to consolidate all city call centers, and 4 is to expand the e-government service as needed and make it very easy for constituents to access services in the city. We have completed phase 1 by having established a 311 call center on the 10th floor of the City Hall East, eliminated most of the public toll-free public access numbers. We have a citywide service directory that is now online, that's accessible from the internet, consolidated with one department's call center, the Department of Building and Safeties, and we have, the ITA has developed in-house a web-based anti-graffiti request system, and that has been in production for a while. How long now? A year?
Over a year.
Over a year. And the next one shows the top 10 service requests for the year so far. As you can see, there are 10 of them that are by department, as well as if you read into the legend, they also tell you what the specific requests are for. And this top 10 requests represent 24% of the total requests that are received thus far. We have sample detailed statistics on the top 10 services by council district. We have samples for 6 and 9. And for ITA has established in the Citywide Services Directory a reporting mechanism online that can be accessed by city employees for these statistics. And the URL, the website address is on the slide. So if if council members or city employees wish to use that service, training can be provided by ITA. On staffing levels, the 311 call center operates now on 24/7 with 3 shifts, day, PM, and AM. In the table provided on that slide, we have the actual daily average of number of agents as well as supervisors per shift right there. We have a total of 48 agents and 6 supervisors currently in the call center. And the day shift, PM shift, AM shift, actual daily average personnel is listed there. It has the net staffing is an actual staffing level that took into account all sick leaves and vacations, etc. for over the 24/7 schedule. The 311 call volume has been increasing since, as you can see, from 1 million in 06-07 to 1.2 in 07-08, and now to 1.4 in 08-09, and thus far it's already 1.5, right?
We're projecting.
We are projected. Okay, for the whole year, projected to be 1.5. So the increase is slowing down a bit. However, it is increasing nonetheless. Based on a 2000 PricewaterhouseCoopers study at the time with the 311 program, they have done a study that is comparable to our 311 call center that we're supposed to have to meet the service level, that the target service level for the industry would be 60 agents and 8 supervisors. But we only have now 48 and 6.
So these people over at PricewaterhouseCoopers are pretty smart, aren't they?
Supposedly.
Yeah. Did they also tell us where we're going to get the money?
That was not provided in the report.
I didn't think so. Okay, go ahead.
And so we will address, if Councilman would like to address this further, we have details here, we can talk about it further. We are supposed to now also originally planned to consolidate call centers from the following 5 more departments: the Department of Transportation, Animal Services, Public Works Sanitation, Street Services, and Street Lighting.
I have a question. If we consolidate those call centers, do we have a number of how many bodies are in each of those call centers today on a 24-hour basis?
We don't have the information, but we can certainly go back and check.
Yeah, we're going to need that information, because it's only appropriate and fair that if we're going to continue to consolidate into one facility, that we need to understand that we have volume requirements, such as what that very nice study showed us, that based on a certain volume or more, you should, not required, but you should have X number of bodies or more. So if we're consolidating, say Department of Transportation has 5, Animal Services has 4, Public Works Sanitation has 6, Public Works Street Services might have 4 bodies dedicated to that, Street Lighting another 4. If we're talking about 20 bodies, it's nice to be able to consolidate that, and from a budgeting vantage point, it makes us very happy. But at the same time, if we're going to move that responsibility over to another facility, we should have at least some fraction of those bodies to be able to fortify that new responsibility. So I need that information. Thank you.
Noted.
Yes.
And as the lessons learned when we consolidated with the Department of Building and Safety, the issues are basically we have a technology issue where the constituent relationship management system that we initially used from Motorola didn't work out. We need executive sponsorship, I guess, more drive into the program, I guess, to push it through. We need more departmental buy-in in the consolidation, and when it comes to moving personnel, there's going to be some labor relations issues that needs to be overcome. The current 3-in-1 components that we have right now are systems from Nortel that takes care of telephone systems needs, and then we have Motorola radios, as well as a recording system from Higher Ground that records for us on the 3-in-1 call center. And like I mentioned just a minute ago, the citywide service request system, which is the CRM that we have contract with Motorola, was canceled in October of 2008. So now the future of 311 is that the 311 wants to provide a streamlined, standardized process for intake and tracking of all service requests that are non-emergency for the city. So we wanted to be able to have a web-based direct access for city services by constituents, be able to optimize the workflow for the city, and also give dashboard reporting as needed by council and mayor. To help achieve these goals, ITA is exploring a constituent relationship management solution. There are many, and we are in the process of doing cost-benefits analysis to find out which one to go and how to proceed. We are also exploring a regional call center concept where the city could potentially become the regional call center for perhaps countywide and various municipalities that can take advantage of our capital investment in the call center. Another one would be also we are looking at consolidating it with the county. It's 211, I believe. So that's another concept that is being explored. So this concludes the presentation here, and we're ready to answer questions.
Okay. The most interesting point that you made is the potential for consolidating with the county. I mean, it sounds good on paper, but those are two levels of government. They tend to take calls probably more on healthcare issues and things of that nature. They have unincorporated areas that do in fact do the business of building and safety and other departments that we have within our own city. So how is it that you're looking into that potential for consolidation? You're first just talking to the county to see if they're interested, or you're actually looking at potential systems throughout the country that actually have large cities and perhaps an overlaying county that they have one system?
For my information is that the CAO's chief level staff has been in communication with the 2-in-1 program managers over at county. They were discussing it. There were a lot of issues, like you just mentioned, that may not be overcome. So we have the situation right now is that we haven't tabled the idea. We're still talking about it. Mm-hmm. But there are obviously many obstacles to overcome if we were going to do that. And as far as an example of that, maybe ITA can speak to that. Maybe they have information on 3-in-1 over at New York. Maybe they may have done so. So I do not know that. So maybe ITA can answer that.
Well, I think New York City has a really consolidated 3-in-1 system where they incorporated everything, all the city departments, the transportation, the taxi cabs, I think the housing, because they receive rent complaints and so forth. So the 3-in-1 is actually under the mayor's auspice, and they've actually reached out and expanded, and we're actually doing some research into their system because we're looking at the call volume, the number of agents that they have, and so forth. But we're just starting the initial research right now.
Yeah, but when you talk about New York, isn't New York a quasi-city county government already?
Right, I think
They don't have the
separate.
separation, the distinct separation that we have here.
Right, but I think what we're looking at is we're looking at the different potential options and possibilities. We recognize that there, with the 211, like the council member says, there will be some obstacles, but on the other hand, the county has different county departments, like the sheriff's department, the health benefits, and so forth. So there may be a possibility that if we cannot consolidate with 211, we may have the potential to consolidate with one or more of their departments where we can take on some of their phone calls.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody over there at the county that is intricately aware of the issues that face the city?
I think what's happened is we had one initial meeting where somebody from the county did attend. Unfortunately, I forgot his name, but he used to actually work here. I believe he used to work for LAPD. And I think he's working for Ellen Sant in the...
Well, actually, I was
county.
thinking more like the CAO, CEO, our former CAO and the current CEO of the county. If anybody can actually at least help with the litany of possibilities, which is the good side of the analysis,
Right.
and the litany of potential obstacles, which is the difficult side of the ledger, then perhaps that would give us a better place to save a lot and conserve a lot of energy and try to make as much progress on the concept before we get into the details.
Okay, we will certainly contact Mr. Fujioka.
Yeah. I think he has a few people working for him, so he
Yes.
he can get the message.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. When it comes to identifying 311 calls within each council district, for example, I can see that in the spreadsheet, but is the system able to even draw down and pinpoint the call, where the calls are coming from, closer to each neighborhood or by street or what have you?
Well, what we do is when the call is called, we ask them for their zip code.
Okay.
Sometimes the constituents provide to us and sometimes they don't.
Okay.
It's whatever they feel comfortable with, because sometimes they provide their home zip code, sometimes their business zip code, so we have that, as best as we can.
Okay. All right. So basically, when it comes to other municipalities, we're talking to the county, basically. We're not necessarily talking to the city of Burbank, which abuts our city, or Pasadena, or what have you.
Yes, we've actually met with Pasadena, with Beverly Hills, I can't remember Burbank, Glendale, West Hollywood. So we are exploring different cities within the region.
Okay, how's that coming along?
We've had several meetings, and they've actually, I think one or two of them have expressed real desire, but I think as we indicated, we do have an issue with the technology that we have right now with our CRM. We'd like to be able to proceed with that so that when we offer our service to the other cities, we have a complete package to present.
Okay. Is there anything going on with any of our particular vendors that we're vested with in this system that might cause us any concerns? My understanding, Nortel is having some troubles right now.
Nortel is financially in trouble, absolutely. It appears as though they have a buyer for the company. We've been meeting with Avaya. So I think that will be taken care of with that merger.
So what we anticipate, I guess, word on the street is, should Nortel continue to get into trouble, there might be a like company that would be taking them over. Avaya happens to be, isn't Avaya, I think Avaya used to be Lucent, before those big companies got broken up.
Right.
So my point is this, I think when Nortel, excuse me, not Nortel, when Avaya became Avaya, I think they were like a $4 billion company from day one. It's my understanding that Avaya is still strong?
That is my understanding also.
Yeah, that's what I haven't heard any rumors or anything that Avaya is having problems. But obviously Nortel, it's beyond rumors. They are having some public financial difficulties. So, okay, so who is involved in monitoring that? And just, I'm sure there's legal reasons why you don't want to knock on somebody's door and make accusations or what have you, but we have a vested relationship with them. So who in the city is responsible for making sure that we stay on top of that, and we are assured that everything, regardless of what happens with one company, hopefully will still remain comfortable?
So the AGM, the GM, Randy Levin, and I have met with both Avaya and Nortel to talk about this. Then we had a joint meeting with both companies because they told us at that point that there was actually something on the table where the two companies were going to be merged. And so we have been keeping very close tabs on this, obviously, because we have a very big vested interest in the products that we currently own.
Okay, but no alarm at this time. It looks like the market will sort it out, and they'll continue to be able to serve. Okay. Another question is, you mentioned the consolidation with the DOT, Animal Services, Sanitation, et cetera. How are those potential consolidations coming along, and what is the timeline for us to see success in moving those over?
There is no timeline right now on the consolidations. The project has stopped at phase one, and that's why we're saying that we need support executive level and department buy-in and so on and so forth. Sanitation, for one, is looking more for a CRM system. They want to be able to put this out to the web, have self-service and so on, and that's what a piece that was originally supposed to be the Motorola that ended up not happening. And so without that piece of work, they have kept the call centers separate.
Well, the thing about having something heavily web-based, to me, would be a bit of a difficulty for communities that are very underserved or don't have the capacity to access the internet. I mean, we still have a digital divide in the city. I know big parts of my community and Councilwoman Perry's community, there are no computers in that household. And then if they go to their local library, there might be 4 computers, 8 computers if they're lucky, but that's a facility that serves hundreds of people a day. So, what are we doing about that? Or will we, at least in the foreseeable future, even if a department or our 311 were to move more toward a web-based interaction, are we still going to make sure that we keep that ability to people actually to pick up the phone and communicate that way?
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why CRM was so interesting to us is that if we could offload some of those tickets that we're now getting, even with a reduced staff, we'd still be able to answer the calls and as the volume grew, with not so long of a wait time that people then give up on the service.
Council members, if I could add, Mark Wolf with ITA. Adding to my colleagues' comments, really the critical step for bringing 311 to the next level in terms of efficiency and in terms of ease of access for the public is really to have a citywide centralized system in place for the tracking of the actual requests that come in, and then automated forwarding to the appropriate department that needs to take care of the request, to fulfill the request. So that's what's really holding us back from moving forward with the next phases for 311, taking it to the next level of efficiency, and that will enable the consolidation of call centers or the merging of a regional approach to doing call centers for 311.
Okay.
And today, if I could add also, today departments have, each of our departments like sanitation, building and safety, street lighting, and others, they have their own standalone tracking systems. So today, the 311 agents actually do intake of some of the service request systems for about the top 5 departments that have service request systems. It's just challenging for them to take on more departments and do intake into their systems when they're all standalone systems and they have to log into 5 or 10 different systems. It's not really workable in terms of operational needs.
You showed us a breakdown of the request numbers throughout the city and then by council district. Are you able to provide that for us and also break it down one step further as to how many of those requests came via phone call, or how many of those requests actually came via the internet?
Yes. Yes, we can do that, and when we'll work with Eduardo.
I think that's going to be very important, and we should be able to use that for other purposes when we're trying to move forward with technology. We can't leave communities behind and assume that they have that kind of access. And this is going to be a great opportunity for us to show, to the tune of millions of contacts over several years, as to which communities are still not accessing their services in the new fashion, and which communities are actually accessing in an older fashion.
And Councilmember, also to touch on your point, which is very well taken, the centralized tracking system would be able to be leveraged by the call center agents, the city departments, and the public. So for those individuals, the residents in Los Angeles that do not have access, they would be able to continue to have access by contacting 311 telephonically.
Quick
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
And from looking at the statistics, as I already knew that people in the night use 311 a lot, but they could probably use it even more. And when you call 311, if you have to wait a little bit, there's music by the LA Philharmonic, I think, right? Because I call it a lot myself. And I tell a lot of fifth grade classes that I go to tell their parents to use 311, and we hand out the flyers in the classes. But what I'm wondering is on that message, and I don't know if this would cost too much, maybe alternate with music, whatever. When you call 311, you can report and then give the list of what you can report, because sometimes people just call because they saw something, but they don't know, oh yeah, I can call in about street lights, or I can call in about stray dogs, or something like that. Is there any way to adjust the message so that it could be, you know, sort of a looping message with music and information? Because it's an opportunity to educate people about how to use 311 when they call in for one problem, and they can call in on another problem the next time. Is that possible?
That's something that we can definitely look into. The only concern, I think this kind of thing has been talked about in the past, even maybe identifying like there's technology called a IVR system, where you can say, where we've all probably experienced this calling other services, press 1 for this service, press 2 for this service, and then it could prompt them perhaps
So I was just
through...
wondering, just when the music plays, instead of the music, just say, thanks for calling 311. We can also help you with blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And then, I'm not saying press 1, press 2. I don't want to make it that complicated.
Okay.
It's just maybe in lieu of the music.
No, that's something that we can
That's
do.
all. Just want to
That's
make it
something
really
we can
simple.
look at,
I
for
don't want
sure.
to make it costly, and maybe there's no fiscal impact. Maybe it's just replacing the music with a recorded message that says you can call about stray dogs, tree trimming, sidewalk repair, curbs, gutter, trash pickup, bulky item pickup.
That's a great idea.
Okay? That's all.
How long would you need to get back to the committee on that?
I think probably a couple of weeks, just not for an answer on the feasibility, I think just to turn around, coordinating the recordings and getting it updated.
We'll expect a report back at the beginning of the year.
The only reason I brought that up is because I'm looking at my own statistics, and I see bulky item is in the #1 position, and that's a problem, but everything's a problem. And I think the more people know about what 311 can do for them, the phones will never stop ringing, and that's good.
Yep. The sooner they call it in, the sooner we can fix it. Or tell them we can't afford it.
It'll take long.
But at least get back to them with the truth. Okay. So you'll get back to us with that answer at the beginning of the year. You'll notify my office when you're ready with that answer, and we'll schedule that as part of one of the presentations. And then also, is there anybody here for public comment on item number 2? On item number 2, is there anybody here for public comment? I see no public comment cards filled out for item number 2. Public comment for item number 2 is now closed. So with that, what we'll do is we'll note and file this report, and the committee will let you know when we'd like to hear an update.
For that update, would you want the CAO to be part of, or just ITA would be sufficient?
You trust each other? No. Oh, yeah. It's always good to have CAO part of it, so. Okay.
No, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, they nodded yes, that they do trust each other. For those listening to the Squawk Box. We'll go at this time back to item number 1.
And item number 1 was the motion, Perry Parks Carnes, relative to the status of the EIR for Parker Center.
Yeah, that's great.
While they're getting up to the table, public comment, we're on item number 1. Public comment is open on item number 1. Is there anybody here to make a public comment on item number 1?
Going.
Okay. Seeing and hearing no one come forward, I do not see any public comment cards filled out for item number 1. Item number 1, public comment is now closed. Ms. Perry?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson, and as we all know, this is a historic site, and it's a site that people attach a lot of significance to, not just because of what happened within its walls, but because it's been there for a very long time and made famous on television. And so my interest in pursuing an environmental impact process is to get input on not only what we do with the SID group and the tech lab group, but what we actually want to do with the site and with the building, and if in fact we want to retain it or whatever. This will give the community and city an enormous opportunity to comment, to give input. You know, fortunately, we have the luxury of time now because most everyone has moved out of there, so no one's pressing to leave that building, so we're not under that kind of pressure. But the EIR does have a good, sound timeline with structure in it, opportunity for public hearing, and so I am personally looking forward to hearing what we get back from the community. A lot of people don't know that the Buddhist temple was originally sited there at Parker Center and then moved over to First Street by the city, and you know, we've got a history with the surrounding community too. So this can be a very interesting exercise in which all are encouraged to participate. That's it.
Okay. Is there anybody from staff that can comment on the costs associated with keeping the Scientific Investigation Division there?
Well, council members, I'm Ramon Soto with the CAO's office. Yes, we have looked at initial estimated costs of keeping the SID operation at Parker Center, which has to be there until a new site is authorized and built, and the cost is roughly $800,000 a year. And so it's currently unbudgeted, so it will be an impact on the city budget. That would cover both the custodial, maintenance, and security costs. Utilities.
Okay. But no matter where they're at, there's still a cost to having the site open, either way.
Well, yeah, there's an additional cost with having it partially occupied, yes. And as soon as they move out, well, I guess the costs at the area where they might move to might be in the same area or a little bit more expensive.
Okay.
And regarding that, actually, there's a CAO report that's pending council consideration on reciting SID, and we're waiting to get that scheduled.
Wasn't it anticipated when they were building the new facility that they were going to go in the new facility at the beginning?
Early in the process, and I think we could give you a copy of a report that we wrote regarding SID, but early in the process, maybe back to around 2001 when a new police administration building was being contemplated, the SID was one of those entities that was scheduled to move to the new administration building. However, as that project developed and cost realities set in, and some items that were originally intended to be part of the new police administration building had to come out. And so I believe that around 2003, when they finally did the cutoff of the design for the new police administration building, SID had to go. And at that point, there were various plans on where to site them, all the way from going to Piper Tech. But ultimately, over the last year or so, we've determined that we need to find them a spot in the downtown area, and likely be a standalone site for themselves, not shared with other city departments.
And at this time, what is the approximate square footage needed for that new site?
It's about 35 to 40,000 square feet.
Anything you'd like to add to that?
In addition to the issues with, Tom Brennan, Facilities Management from the LAPD. In addition to the issues with keeping SID there from an ongoing standpoint, we have also been approached, and General Services has been approached about a 1989 citation against the department for the fire life safety in that building. We will be having meetings with the fire department and building and safety over the next few weeks to talk about what the requirements are for the fire and life safety in that building. The building did have a patch job, basically, of some fire and life safety put in while we were occupying the building as the new police administration building was constructed, but I have no idea what the recommendations or the requirements are going to be from those meetings with building and safety and the fire department.
Okay. And that meeting's scheduled in the next 2 weeks, you said?
We're actually scheduled to meet, I believe, on December 14th.
December 14th?
December 14th with building and safety and the fire department. So we will have additional information after that.
Well, Parker Center is not in imminent danger of falling down. It is true that there are issues with it, and we would like to move the police department out as soon as possible. So based on our timeline for if new police SID building, if we get it, it'll be roughly 16 to 17 months that police would continue to occupy Parker Center.
Okay. Yes.
Two things I wanted to say, and I'll put this formally on the record as part of the EIR process. No matter what happens, the mural in the lobby was designed by Mr. Fisher. What's the name of the? Gunn? Young. What's his name? Joseph Young. Joseph Young, who actually did the Triforium and did another mural, I think, on the County Hall of Records. And because of its designation and because of the level of recognition he achieved on an international scale, I want to make sure that we do whatever we have to do to preserve that mural, no matter what happens with the building. And then two, since this is such a great opportunity, I want to ask the Bureau of Engineering, and just do this on the record, to at least notify this council office before any community scoping meetings take place, so that we can help and assist and ensure that you get a really great turnout. You may remember the outreach we did on the city buildings over there behind the Buddhist temple, and it went on hearings for 2 years. But in the end, we got a good result, and people were pretty pleased, and I'd like to make sure that we do that quality of outreach again.
We'll work very closely with your office. We would appreciate working very closely with you.
Thank you.
And ma'am, as far as the Joseph Young mural, it is our intent to relocate that mural from Parker Center lobby to the public lobby where R&I is at the new police administration building.
Oh, good.
So that would allow it to continue to be in public space.
Good, good.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Seeing no more comments from the committee or questions, and also public comment was closed already for this item. At this time, we'll adopt the motion, and you'll be communicating directly with Councilmember Perry's office.
Yes, we will.
Thank you. We now move to item number 3.
Item number 3 is the Chief Legislative Analyst Report relative to city support of H.R. 2521, DeLauro, the National Infrastructure Development Bank Act of 2009, pursuant to Resolution Rosendahl-Alarcon.
Afternoon, Maria Souza Rountree from the CLA's office. The CLA recommendation in the attached report is recommending that you adopt the attached resolution that would support H.R. 2521, which would establish the National Infrastructure Bank Act of 2009. As the resolution describes, there's been a lot of discussion in Washington, D.C. about establishing an infrastructure bank that would leverage federal money for infrastructure projects, transportation, water projects, all levels of different types of infrastructure projects. Unfortunately, at this point, they don't have much information on how it would function or even how it would be established, so it's really a concept bill at this point. We anticipate a Senate bill coming in at some time in the future, but as of right now, it's just the House bill. No amount of money is in the bill right now, but they've talked about $5 million per year, $25 million total that could be leveraged. About $625 billion for infrastructure, so we'd like to recommend support on that.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions?
Good.
Okay. Seeing no more questions from the committee, we'll go to public comment. We are on item number 3. Is there anybody here to make public comment on item number 3? I do not see any public comment cards before me. Seeing no one come forward to make comment on item number 3. Public comment on item number 3 is now closed. With that is the action of this committee to adopt the resolution in support of H.R. 2521.
Thank you.
Next, we move to item number 4.
Item number 4 is a CLA report relative to city support for H.R. 3745, Baldwin, which would establish the Community Access Preservation Act and amend the Communications Act of 1934 to provide for carriage and display of public educational and governmental channels in a manner consistent with commercial channels pursuant to Resolution Cardenas Rosendahl Garcetti.
John Wickham with the CLA's office, pitch hitting for Mandana, who's out sick today. We have a CLA report on file recommending adoption of Resolution Cardenas Rosendahl Garcetti to include in the city's 2009-2010 federal legislative program support of H.R. 3745, which would establish the Community Access Preservation Act and amend the Communications Act of 1934 to provide for carriage and display of public educational and governmental channels in a manner consistent with commercial channels and for various other purposes. One of those other purposes is to remove strict state limitations on capital expenditures and allow for broader use of the PEG funding for all PEG uses. William Imperial with ITA is available to answer any detailed questions you might have.
Yes. So basically, this is a bill that would actually provide better clarity about how today's world should look as far as what kind of public access channels would be provided.
Well, actually, what this bill would do is take the city back to where it should have been had state franchising laws not been passed to preempt the city's right to franchise the cable companies to the Public Utilities Commission. If you recall, the city had a locally based franchising power that allowed them to enact certain rules, procedures for the cable companies, or to affect the cable companies, including that the cable operators would run our public studios, our public access studios, and provide funding for our educational and governmental channels. What the bill would do is essentially take us back to the at the option of the cable operator, by the way, take us back to the pre-2005 or 2006 passage of the state law, and for purposes of PEG, again, public educational and governmental access, and allow the operators here in the city and throughout the nation to either provide the current funding levels that they're providing or the funding levels that they were providing at that time, and would unrestrict, and more importantly, unrestrict the 1% PEG franchise fee that the city now receives pursuant to federal and state law, which means that instead of being restricted to capital cost only for use of the 1% PEG fee, the city would be able to use that for PEG-related activities. And the bill would essentially allow channels 35 and 36 and public access to once again resume according to the city's ability, and we would be able then to take the $5 million that we collect now pursuant to the 1% franchise fee that we get. We'd be able to take that and not use the regular franchise fees that we collect, so that there would be more money for the general fund at the end of the day. That is now going to 35 and 36, and that we're holding right now for public access going forward. So it's an important bill for PEG access in the city.
So more flexibility and better and more appropriate local control.
That's correct.
And we're going to get that from Washington?
Well,
we hope.
Well, this bill is actually sponsored by a person who is involved in PEG access, Assemblywoman Baldwin of Ohio, who had the backing of many national PEG access leaders. So it's a groundswell of public support. Other cities are now passing resolutions. Yesterday, Palm Beach passed a resolution. Seattle, Washington passed a resolution last week in favor of the bill. And I'm getting daily the different resolutions that are being passed, and I've been forwarding them to your office, by the way, to Eduardo, so just to let you know.
Any questions?
Oh, it's good.
All right. Well, this is a good thing. I think it's a long shot. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just that Washington doesn't tend to focus on our issues from a local control vantage point like we do. But I'm sure that either in front of the scene or behind the scenes, there are some very, very powerful interests that would like the status quo to continue rather than see this change. So let's hope that Washington does, in fact, listen to that groundswell. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with that, we are on item number 4. Is there anybody here to make public comment on item number 4? We're currently on item number 4, and public comment is now open. I see no public comment cards on item number 4 before me. I see no one coming forward to make public comment on item number 4. Therefore, public comment on item number 4 is now closed. With that, it's the action of the committee to adopt the resolution in support of H.R. 3745. Okay. Now we move to item number 5.
Item number 5 is the CLA report relative to city support and/or sponsorship of legislation that preserves the city's allocation of Hoover Power Plant energy and capacity in order to support the city's continued access to clean, emission-free, and low-cost energy pursuant to Resolution Perry-Smith.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Ms. Perry. Rafael Prado with the CLA's office. I'm joined by 2 members of the Department of Water and Power, Joe Avila to my left and Randy Howard to my right. What we seek here is adoption of a Resolution Perry-Smith relative to sponsorship support of legislation that preserves the city allocation of Hoover Power Plant energy entitlements, which are currently set at 441 megawatts of power, 602,000 megawatt hours of power as well, too. If we don't pursue this, we will most likely have to undergo the administration process under the Western Area Power Administration, which could be very long and cumbersome. We feel that by going this route, we could pursue, maintain our energy entitlements, and perhaps keep them at 50 years. So that is the essence of our report.
Okay. From the department, what percentage of this energy is our, how much of the energy that we use on a daily basis does this provide for us?
Randy Howard, LADWP. Let me respond to that, give you just a little brief history. The city of Los Angeles was involved in the initial construction of Hoover Dam almost 70 years ago. We operated
How many years ago?
70.
70.
We operated the dam for the first 50 years. LADWP operated the dam. We turned it over to the federal government to start operations. The agreement expires in 2017. It is currently about 6 to 8% of our resource requirements annually. It is our lowest cost resource in our system.
What is that? What are we calculating that cost?
It's a little bit, well, you said about 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour production cost. So it's our lowest cost resource. It's an emission free. And we are the largest off-taker of capacity out of Hoover Dam. It's also critical to the integration of our renewable resources going forward.
What percentage of the calculated output or potential of that dam is our percent?
As a percentage, I believe we're about 28% of capacity. We're a little less on energy. We prefer the capacity. Metropolitan Water District is the largest taker of the energy, and they use that for pumping purposes of the Colorado River.
So Metropolitan Water District utilizes more energy from that dam than we do?
That is correct.
So we're second as far as energy consumption from that facility.
Correct, but the most for capacity, meaning we use it as a peaking plant for meeting the middle of our day load on our system, or for when the renewables, the wind isn't blowing, we can then allocate the capacity. So we have more ability to ramp it than just let a continuous flow.
So this facility is actually one of our, I would say that this is key and integral to us being able to be successful when it comes to improving our renewable portfolio standard capacity, and also being able to make sure that we have the capacity to venture further into that area when some of those cleaner energies don't have a 24/7 capability. So this actually is providing more than one opportunity for us to be able to move forward.
This is a very valuable asset for
And on
the
top
city
of that,
Los
it is our lowest energy cost energy
That is correct.
that we're consuming. Okay.
And that's why we're working on it so early before the contract expires in 2017.
Now, when you're working on this and the contract expires on 2017, what are we faced with as far as the potential for this not going our way?
All of the 15 contractors in the states of Arizona, Nevada, and California have come to an agreement on language that we're proposing going forward for a legislative fix. We have an agreement between us. So we have an agreement that we took approximately 8 months to negotiate. that would request a 50-year extension going forward.
Okay, so it appears that there's no alarm bells on that 50-year extension. We're not counting our chickens before they hatch, but there's nothing that leads us to be concerned or overly concerned that we're not going to make progress.
Well, I think part of the concern is back in '79, the reallocation component did lead to litigation by the Hoover, us and the other contractors, because it was a perception that we would get less power from the plant back then. That was 10 years prior to the expiration of that 50-year agreement. There's a chance that could, I guess, happen again.
Yeah, in that case, and none of us were around during that point, it went to litigation and then a settlement and then a legislative fix for the extension. The parties,
Legislative fix of federal legislation?
a federal legislative fix that agreed to the consent through Western, using Western. The parties got together early and tried to resolve that, and we have done so. So we have an agreement going forward between the parties on the extension, and what we're seeking is the ability to advocate that position for a 50-year legislative extension.
Okay, and there's nothing that precludes us and the other parties from signing an agreement before 2017? Or we have to wait till 2017?
We would seek a legislative extension that would be effective at the conclusion or termination of the 2017 date, so it'd be 50 years beyond that date.
Yeah, but my point is there anything that precludes us, say we get really lucky, and the parties that be in the politics happen to be settled and satisfied with the agreement?
Basically, can you sign
Can we sign an agreement in 2015?
Yes.
Okay. Do we understand, do we feel as though we're prepared to do that if we get so fortunate?
I would be prepared to recommend signing that.
Yeah. I mean, there's no downside to that, because time is an element and politics is an element that we can't control, especially when you're looking at the Western United States, and then the legislative fix isn't even a state legislative fix, it's not a council legislative fix, it's a federal legislative fix.
Right. Mr. Chair, actually, the reason we're coming to you so early is because it's an integral asset, obviously, as you described.
Absolutely.
And there could be any number of issues that could arise. There could be environmental issues, there could be, legislative issues, political issues. So we don't want to wait till the last minute and risk losing access to this very important asset.
Mm-hmm. This is a large hydro, right? That's the category it falls into?
This is a large hydro.
So this is not counted toward our RPS, unfortunately.
No, we do not count it towards our RPS. It will count towards our CO2 emission footprint, but certainly not towards our RPS.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any more information you'd like to give to this committee on this item? Okay. All right. Okay. We'll go to public comment now. Thank you, gentlemen. Public comment is now open on item number 5. We have one public comment card filled out. Dr. Clyde Williams. Please come forward. You have 2 minutes to make your comments. Good to see you.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, member of the board of LA 32 Neighborhood Council, also DWP liaison for LA 32 Neighborhood Council. We're quite concerned about this because, as the discussion indicated, this is a very important element within the overall DWP provision of power. It also is relying on the Colorado River, which is also suffering from low flows. So there's a critical element not only to maintain our share, but to maintain it during low flow conditions. There's also a matter that if you can get any more power from Hoover, it would be highly beneficial because we already have power line access, and right now from this you can only operate roughly 200 days at 7 hours, and that uses up all of our allocation. So that's not very much. So if we could double it, so rather than just supporting, might say, retaining our existing, can we actually get more from anybody? Because this has a lot of sunk costs in already, and would provide us with far more cost-effective power production when we're going to be transitioning from coal to some other, either geothermal or other major renewable sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy? I'm not sure if you're the one that can answer this question, but Dr. Williams brings up a good point. However, I would think that it might be a little pie in the sky when you look at the cost of energy to us at 2.5 cents is something that's a premium to all of the partners in this process. I'm sure that there's an opportunity for language to exist that we could go ahead and take advantage of energy that perhaps one of the other partners would like to sell to us or what have you. But what's the likelihood of that happening, looking at the environment today and the environment of tomorrow, where this is such a low-cost provider, and also it's going to help any constituency that receives this energy to use it toward their carbon responsibilities that are becoming more on a federal and state basis a requirement of every municipality, right?
You are correct. It's a very delicate balance there, and it was a very difficult negotiation because California retains the greatest percentage share of the output, and the city of LA as the single largest entity for capacity. So parties such as Arizona and Nevada sought much greater percentages of share on the output. At the time that the facility was constructed, they were very small population centers in relation to what they are today. So they had very strong arguments as to why they should now receive a larger percentage of share. When we went through the negotiations, though, it became evident that we were going to jump right to a very lengthy litigation, and then Western or some other regulatory body might decide, and all of us end up being losers there. So we came up with a negotiated settlement, and that's what we're proposing to bring forward to the legislation now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for that clarification, and I appreciate you helping the public understand that. Obviously, we would love to get as much of the energy as possible. There are other recipients of this energy. It's obvious that they are not likely to release that ability. They all need that energy today more than they did 70 years ago, when we were fortunate to be the big consumer and the big enough to actually operate it. But now it appears that in negotiations, sometimes if we reach too far, personalities start to get involved, and then we find ourselves in litigation. Isn't litigation what we're trying to avoid this time?
It is what we're trying to avoid, plus we think we have the alignment from the legislators of the three primary states that could actually move a bill if it's an agreed upon bill and everybody's in agreement that we have the ability to move it early and have the confidence that this is going to be a resource for the city past 2017. If it is not, we need to be starting to build whatever that replacement is right away, and it's going to be a great expense to our ratepayers.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, is there anybody else here for public comment on item number 5? Seeing no one else come forward for public comment on item number 5, public comment on item number 5 is now closed. With that, it is the recommendation of the chair, or the communication of the chair of this committee, to adopt a resolution to support and/or sponsor legislation that preserves the city's allocation of the Hoover Power Plant energy and capacity. We are now a committee of one, as Ms. Perry had to step out. So that's the tally on that item. Thank you. We move forward now to our last agendized item, is item number 6.
And item number 6 is a CLA report relative to city opposition to the extension of SR 710 through zones 1 and 2 as defined by Caltrans in their SR 710 tunnel technical study, and support for a study that explores a tunnel option to close the I-210 SR 710 gap via Zone 3, pursuant to Resolution Garcetti-Huizar Reyes.
Good afternoon, Annie Dino from the CLA's office. For the past 40 years, Caltrans has been in the planning stages of extending the SR 710, also known as the Long Beach Freeway. Currently, the SR 710 terminates at Valley Boulevard, where traffic reaches its northern end. In June of 2008, Caltrans and Metro began the SR 710 Tunnel Technical Study, a geological study aimed at determining preliminary subsurface information for the construction of an underground tunnel. The study was conducted in a route-neutral manner, where 5 study zones were selected. A variety of issues were identified with each of the zones. However, the study found that it's geotechnically feasible to tunnel in any of the zones. The resolution introduced on September...
Did you say feasible or infeasible?
Feasible.
Feasible.
A resolution introduced on September 30th, 2009 states that proposing that the SR 710 be expanded through zones 1 and 2 seems to be impractical and not cost-effective based on distance alone. Also, as the SR 710 Tunnel Technical Study has progressed, there have been concerns raised relative to extending the SR 710 through zones 1 and 2, including, first, both zones 1 and 2 have been identified as having high methane gas potential. 2, a Superfund site has been located on the northwest portion of Zone 1. 3, constructing a tunnel to extend SR 710 through zones 1 and 2 will not achieve the goal of connecting the SR 710 to the I-210. 4, the cities of Glendale and La Cañada have both opposed tunneling through zones 1 and 2 because of the influx of traffic that would be created in these areas. The resolution recommended that the city oppose extending the SR 710 through zones 1 and 2 and support tunneling through zone 3. The CLA concurs with this recommendation. And we have Caltrans, Metro, and DOT available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Caltrans? Who's here from Caltrans? Hello. When was the 710 freeway constructed up to the point where it is today?
I believe it was back in the early days of freeways in the 50s, and of course it wasn't completed all the way to where it's constructed today. It was built in phases, but if I'm not mistaken, it was in the 70s when it reached the point that where it is now.
Okay. So that portion of the 710 perhaps was under planning and construction in the 1950s, et cetera.
That's right.
And then the last real construction on that occurred perhaps in the 1970s?
That's
as far as
right.
you can tell. And I understand you don't have official dates, but I appreciate you trying to give me a perspective.
Sure.
Okay.
If I could
Now,
just add one more thing,
sure.
if I may. My understanding is that in the 70s, one of the reasons that the freeway was not completed was due to some of the policies, the transportation department, and at the time, I believe the governor was Jerry Brown, and this is before my time in California, but there were some decisions made to not extend the freeway. That was one of the factors. And so the project just sat. And
did you say policies or politics?
The politics of it.
Yeah, because when I was a little boy, I saw the 118 freeway as I was playing on my elementary school playground. I saw the 118 get constructed and built right before my eyes. And I don't remember a governor stopping that freeway. But I lived in a pretty poor neighborhood called Pacoima. Okay. And how long have you been with Caltrans?
20 years.
20 years?
Yes.
So still before your time?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. At this time, so that we give the community an opportunity to speak, we'll open up public comment at this time. And then, but I still need the experts here from the various departments and other jurisdictions to remain, please. We'll open it up for public comment. You walked in last, Mr. Williams. How did you get here on the top? Sorry about that. Errol Vizcara? Okay, sure. Okay. You'll go right after Mr. Williams. William Sherman? Nancy Campo? Margot Jim, and Marie Salas. You can all come forward at the same time. We have 4 microphones. You won't speak at the same time, but you could sit at the table together. Okay, please state your name for the record, sir, and you may begin.
William Sherman. I am for the proposal with modifications. I support a resolution that is against any extension of the 710 freeway. The extension solves some problems but creates many others. The extension will ease the flow of containers from the ports to the parts of L.A. and to the areas north of Los Angeles County. The cost, though, to the health of the citizens of Los Angeles is too high. The monetary cost, whether it be paid for by a public-private partnership or solely a publicly funded, is too high. The problems of container movement can be resolved with a freight rail route, which is much more environmentally friendly and is much cheaper. I will note that the completion of the 710 was stopped in the mid-1970s due to a court injunction, not due to politics. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name.
Okay. I'm Nancy Campo from Northeast Los Angeles, representing United Against 710. We are now 4,000 strong across a number of Northeast neighborhoods, and we are here to make sure that you do 2 things. First, add 2 words to the resolution's last paragraph, and second, recommend that the council pass this resolution unanimously. About the 2 words, our councilman has assured us that these 2 words would be included, and his deputy is here, I'm sure, to take that up with you. About recommending this resolution for passage, we demand that our city protect us from 4 million cubic yards of dirt that would be removed from our neighborhoods. We demand that you not allow 200,000 truckloads of dirt carted out of our neighborhoods, and then 100,000 truckloads of dirt carted back in. Do you think we'd have a neighborhood left? I also want to mention that, we are not going to survive the 21st century unless we learn how to take care of each other. And we are demanding that our city take care of us. Instead of listening to carpetbaggers from Spain and Wall Street, and from Caltrans, who doesn't care about us. All they care about is keeping their high-priced engineers employed. And MTA, I don't know what MTA is thinking in these times to suggest an outdated non-solution to goods movement, not to people movement, but to goods movement. In these times, is MTA really going to waste billions of public dollars on a project that doesn't benefit the public, but only private investors and politicians trying to make their bones on the back of us by killing our neighborhoods? I'm sorry if I offend you, but you need to know just how strongly our neighborhoods feel, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Who's next? Go ahead.
Margot Jim, and I'm also with the same organization, United Against the 710. I've lived in the Northeast LA area for 25 years, worked in the community in many capacities with the schools, with the gangs, with the churches, with environmental concerns in the neighborhood. And to see this possibility of this huge project come right through my neighborhood that's been established for many, many years with many historical residents is just beyond my imagination. So I am also asking for you to please, please consider, imagine if it was going through your neighborhood, and consider passing this motion with the 2 words included, as 3,000 people have signed this petition, and there are many more united against it. They're not able to be here today, they're working, but we plead with you to pass this, and our councilman supports it, and we support this resolution against this extension. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of us don't have to imagine a freeway going through our neighborhood.
I understand.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Marie Salas, and I am a resident living in a very beautiful part of Los Angeles named El Sereno. I have a message from over 850 residents who signed a petition that was passed out in less than 48 hours. The message to our city council, to our local politicians, and to the state politicians, that the rumor and the word out on the street that El Sereno wants the 710 freeway or this this tunnel is an outrage. We do not. I am here to report over 800-plus residents, and we are still counting more, that we do not want the 710 tunnel, nor do we want the design that is currently in place. We want to preserve our community like our neighbors of South Pasadena, Pasadena, Alhambra, and other beautiful communities. We too love our trees, our hills, walking in the evening with our children. We too want to breathe clean air and just continue living like decent people. We are joining together as one. We will continue very vigilant of those state and local politicians who support our cause, and those that are not supporting our cause, those that are undermining us, pretending to be on our side, and avoiding important issues such as the environmental justice that will happen in El Sereno. We will expose those that are hungry for fame, greed, and destroying our community of El Sereno. The message is loud and clear. We will stand strong for the rights of the residents of El Sereno. I want to thank Val Marquez, who introduced me to the concerned neighbors of El Sereno, and I want to thank Joanne Knuckles from the United Against 710, who enlightened me many, many years ago.
Continue.
I also want to say that I personally do not believe in conquer and divide techniques. I am going to, me personally, I am an individual that believes this is a one common cause and that we are all fighting against this purpose. And I will not rest until this is over. Thank you.
Okay. Carol, I'm sorry, I can't read the writing. Carol, and the last name starts, how do you say your name?
Kramer.
Kramer.
Yeah, I'm horrible at writing.
Carol Kramer. Are you a doctor? Val Marquez. I can never read doctors' writing. Pamela Marquez. And Alana Yanes. Go ahead.
Okay. I am for the item 6 proposal, but with modifications. I'm for item 6 proposal, but with modifications. I expect you to report out to the City Council to pass this resolution against the 710 freeway. The only thing you need to change is the addition of 2 words that 4,000-plus people requested you add to the last paragraph that Councilmember Hazar committed to. You need to think in terms of electric freight trains, as Supervisor Antonovich backs, for goods movement, not freeways with their pollution and congestion. And you Caltrans people should make freight movement by train, not freeway, become a reality, which would make you guys heroes to the citizens of L.A. and the goods movement cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Next was Val.
Yeah, my name is Val Marquez, and I've been a 35-year resident of El Sereno. I'm also on the neighborhood council and also form concerned neighbors of El Sereno to protect the community of El Sereno from projects like this. I passed out a little map to each of you, if you could take a look at that. We have MTA Caltrans, they propose 2 portals. No matter what, we get the portal on the south end. In the north portal, as you can see in the map, the portal is located in an area that it's a freeway. There is no homes there. And that's a great thing for Pasadena. But if you look at what they're doing in El Sereno has the same type of landscape that Pasadena has. We have a freeway ending on Valley Boulevard. We have between Valley Boulevard and the 10 that's also open space and also the same as Pasadena. Why can't they build the portal there and avoid the portal in El Sereno in a residential community? Since they proposed it in 2006, I've gone to every meeting, and I've asked MTA and Caltrans, why do you have that portal located in a residential? And they said, oh, no. We haven't decided that. And I kept pointing out the feasibility study, said, oh, no. We haven't decided where that portal is going. Well, here we are now. I'm sure now they're admitting to the fact that portal is located in a residential neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pamela Marquez?
Yes, I'm Pamela Marquez, and I'm also a resident of El Sereno and member of Concerned Neighbors of El Sereno. The resolution that is before you proposes to achieve three things. They want to oppose any extension of the SR 710 into zones 1 and 2, which is fine. I don't think any other community should have to go through the things that we've had to go through as a resident of El Sereno with the threat of the freeway coming through. Also, to support any further study of the further study of the tunnel option for Zone 3. As we all know, Zone 3 is the only logical route. So further study of that, of course, is there's no reason to oppose that. And three, and most importantly for ourselves in El Sereno, is that to mention that the portal begins and ends south of Valley Boulevard. And that's the two words that they're talking about that are missing from that last paragraph, is that the portal ends south of Valley Boulevard. There's ample room where the freeway ends now to put the tunnel there. So there's no reason on earth that this tunnel portal should encroach on any residential neighborhoods. And it's also troublesome to me that even in the summary of the agenda that was put out by this committee, doesn't mention that third item about not having the portal begin and end at Valley Boulevard, south of Valley Boulevard. So I just want to implore this committee and for the LA City Council to get our backs. Cover our backs. No one has ever covered the backs of the El Sereno residents and made sure that we're protected. So that's all we're looking for today, is for that the El Sereno community be protected from any encroachment of this portal. Thank you.
Alana?
Hello, Councilmember Cardenas. My name is Alana Yanez. I represent Assemblymember Kevin De Leon's office, and just want to let the committee know very briefly that we have met with constituents of El Sereno and South Pasadena, and we will be submitting legislation next year requesting that the portal to this freeway is south of Valley Boulevard. We do not want to see any homes taken out. The Assemblymember does not want to see any homes taken out by this project. Whether or not that legislation passes is, to be seen, but we will be requesting that, and that's basically it for now.
Okay. Thank you very much. And this is his district? Excuse me, Ms. Yanez? This is the Assemblyman's district?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Steve Hernandez and Dr. Clyde Williams. And then the final speaker will be Adele. You're up, Steve.
Okay. I haven't signed any petitions, and I don't belong to any organizations. I'm just a guy that lives in Alhambra and has been watching this and hearing about it for years. I've been in Alhambra since 1979. And I think the whole tunnel idea is just ridiculous on the face of it. I mean, you're proposing, this is what, 4.5 miles of tunnel from El Sereno to Pasadena? Okay. In the first place, this is Southern California. We have earthquakes. I don't know if any of you remember Northridge or Whittier Narrows. I do. And to build a tunnel that long underground, I don't think anybody can guarantee me that that thing will withstand any magnitude earthquake, because we don't know. So if we have the big one, like everybody says we are someday, a lot of people are going to be buried alive in that thing. The other thing is a 4.5 mile long tunnel that's a truck route. So there's going to be traffic and a lot of heavy trucks moving through there with diesel engines that produce soot, the hydrocarbons from the cars. Where's it going to go? Nobody's shown me any designs how that thing's going to be vented. And if you can't vent those toxic gases out of a 4.5 mile long tunnel, we're creating a huge health hazard. especially for people that are going to be using that on a regular basis. You're going to drive in there. I don't care what kind of air conditioning system you have. You're going to breathe this stuff following a big truck. I mean, in a contained space, it's a health hazard. It might take 10, 15, 20 years down the road before this starts showing up. People start getting sick. And then what? So the whole tunnel idea, I just don't understand the necessity for that. To me, it seems like it's going to be more trouble than it's worth, and it's going to be a big white elephant. And then the latest pictures I saw with toll booths at each end, I mean, we have toll freeways now. I used one once, and it didn't do me any good, and it was a waste of money.
Thank you.
So I'm not going to, we're talking about traffic going up to 710.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez.
Okay. That's
That's
it?
all the speakers. Everybody gets 2 minutes.
Oh, all right.
Thank you. All right. Okay. Dr.
Thanks.
Williams, thank you.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, 30-year resident owner in El Sereno. We went through this one before, back in the early 90s. We had the problems with, quotes, cut and cover tunnels. We then had the feasibility study that would have devastated about 300 to 500 houses in El Sereno. We now have the geotechnical study report. However, it's terribly flawed, and in some ways, like the chief legislative analyst, any portal begins south of Mission Road. Well, Mission Road is in Alhambra, or it's west of Soto. It's not in El Sereno. So, in fact, the errors that have been produced, not only in the geotechnical report, but in the chief legislative analyst's report. Oh, by the way, it says that committees, including city representatives from the mayor's office, Department of Public Works, Department of Transportation, and Bureau of Engineering, have been participating. They haven't. You can go back through the minutes, and in fact, the Board of Public Works officially said, we have no responsibility for this 710. It's all Department of Transportation. But they didn't even know that a study was going, not even the Transportation Commission. So what did we want in Neighborhood Council? Only the change of one word, from begins south of Valley Boulevard to ends south of Valley Boulevard. If you make it begins and ends south of Valley Boulevard, fine. But it's a matter that houses, the one word, begins and ends, has direct impact upon 300 to 500 houses, and indirect impact of transportation, boring, excavation to 200 feet for another 1,000 houses. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, Council Member. My name is Adel Vizcarra, and I'm the Planning and Transportation Deputy with Council Member Jose Weezer's office. As you can see from the comments today, this is a very sensitive issue. It affects large portions of Northeast Los Angeles, but ultimately it affects the community of El Sereno the most. The reason being that the portal will always begin there regardless of which zone it takes. We've crafted this resolution with CD1 and CD13, and we've come to the conclusion that yes, we do oppose zones 1 and 2 on face value alone, but for zones 3, which is the original route that was meant to close the 210, 710, we would like to make an amendment. We would request that you can make an amendment to its reading, be it further resolved that if a tunnel is pursued, language must be included to protect the community of El Sereno by specifying that the freeway tunnel portal must begin and end south of Valley Boulevard. Originally, we had worked with the community on that language, but that one part was important and we left it out. So those are really the only changes we made. Also, removing support for a study that explores the tunnel option. That study has already been completed, and the study basically says that you can bore through all 5 zones. So our office hasn't taken a position on the freeway yet, just because we're nowhere near an EIR to determine what the impacts are going to be. However, we do know that if a freeway was to ever be constructed through that area, that we would want the portal to begin and end south of Valley Boulevard so that no homes are disturbed. That's it. Thank you.
So the language you're talking about is the begin and end?
Begin and ends.
Okay. All right. This committee will amend the language as stated. Okay. Now, is there anybody else from any of the council offices that wanted to make a comment?
And for clarification, the chair of the committee, I believe, needs to provide an instruction to the CLA to prepare a new resolution with these amendments?
Yes, it's John Wickham with the CLA's office. Just to clarify, the committee, the communication from the committee would be to adopt the language put forward by the council office. Typically, resolutions that come forward have either the signature of the presenters in council or it's the recommendation of the committee. In this case, we have the text that has been provided by the council office. Would the chair of the committee like the CLA to prepare a draft resolution on behalf of the committee's action that will be attached to the communication from the committee that will go forward? The communication from the committee will also have this documentation attached to it, but the CLA can prepare that resolution.
Correct. That's the intent of the committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good afternoon, Councilmember. I'm Susan Wong with Councilmember Reyes' office, and we are supportive of the resolution as amended by Councilmember Huizar.
With the changes?
Yes, with the changes.
All right, thank you.
Hello, Councilmember. Marcel Porras from Council President Garcetti's office. We also concur with the changes submitted by Council District 14.
And the resolution?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for your statements. Okay. Okay. Okay, no more questions from this committee. Is there anybody else here to make public comment on item number 6? Public comment on item number 6 is still open. Seeing and hearing no one else come forward and fill out a card. Public comment on item number 6 is now closed. So it is the communication of the chair of this committee to adopt the resolution with the change as stated and to oppose the extension of the SR 710 through zones 1 and 2 and support a study that explores the tunnel option to close the I-210 SR 710 gap via zones 3, and as stated by the CLA, they will prepare that document. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Is there anybody here for general public comment?
No. 7.
Is there anybody here for general public comment? General public comment is where people have the opportunity to bring up something to this committee that is not on the agenda. It cannot be discussed by the members of the committee, but it can be stated to the committee on general public comment. General public comment is open. Seeing no one come forward to fill out a card for general public comment to this committee, general public comment is now closed. So with that action, this committee is now adjourned. Thank you.